The good, the bad, the ugly.
What's up, YouTube? Today we're talking about filters. Now today is a special video. Today I'm going to be introducing a new theory that I'm going to be making called My First Aquarium. So I'm going to be posting a My First Aquarium series video every Sunday. My First Aquarium videos every Monday. Yeah, That sure happened. That was how long ago? And it's episode 2. Okay, today we are talking about filtration. And filtration is so important and absolutely necessary unless you want to do about a 25% water change every single day. Even if you did a 25% water change every single day, I still think filtration is so important because it holds lots of good biological bacteria. I've talked about this in other videos and plan to more extensively talk about it in another video, but in case you're new here, let me explain the nitrogen cycle really fast. Okay, so fish produce waste. This waste turns into ammonia. Ammonia is a chemical that's in the water that is highly toxic, and even at really low quantities, it can still kill fish. The way you combat this is you have beneficial bacteria, which lives in gravel or in biological medium in your filter. And the best way to explain it is it eats the ammonia and it turns it into nitrite. Now, nitrite is still pretty toxic, just not quite as toxic as ammonia. But in slightly larger quantities, it'll still kill your fish. So what you do then is you have your biological bacteria convert that into nitrates. Now, nitrates are still highly toxic, except you need much larger quantities for them to kill your fish. And the way you get rid of nitrates is by doing a water change. Also, some plants absorb them. Okay, that's why biological bacteria is necessary for filters. Now let's talk about different types of filters. Let's start out with my personal favorite, hang-on back or HOB filters. So these filters, as you could guess, they just hang on the back of your aquarium. I actually have one. This Marina Slim S10 filter is a hang-on back filter. This is a type of hang-on back filter. I just realized I forgot to have my mic plugged in for this whole video. I hope the audio isn't absolute trash. So the way hang-on back filters work is they go in through the intake, and then they go up and they go through either filter cartridges or just normal media. So HOB filters are really good. They're pretty powerful. They're good for pretty much any tank under 100 gallons. And there's a lot of versatility with them. Some of them you can add like your mechanical, your chemical, your biological filtration. Others just have like set in stone filter cartridges. I don't know. I think they're all like really easy to use and super nice. I'm just going in random order right here, but next is the internal filter. So the internal filter is kind of like an HOB filter, but it's inside of the tank, so it'd be like suctioned onto the glass, and the water goes in on one end of the internal filter, through the whole internal filter, which is inside the tank, and then out into the aquarium. And these filters are actually okay. They're usually not as good as HOB filters, and they take up a huge amount of space, so I wouldn't recommend them for any tank. We're just going in totally random order here. The next, we're going to talk about sponge filters. Now, for small tanks, sponge filters are actually really good. They're air-powered, so they require like an air pump, like one of these. And how they work is there's air flowing out of the top of them, which sucks water into the sponge. And any stuff floating in the water will get caught in the sponge and stay in the sponge. So you can just rinse the sponge out later and get all of like the mechanical filtration. They also, because they're a sponge, are home to a large amount of biological bacteria, which is really good. Now, sponge filters are good for filtering smaller tanks, except once you get into bigger tanks, you need more than one. Like for a 100-gallon tank, you might need 2 or 3, and they're like big ones, like big sponges. And they're pretty ugly, so they totally ruin your aquascape. I think if you're not doing an aquascape and you're just doing like a housing tank for something under 50 gallons, they're good filters. Next, we're going to talk about the under gravel filter. The under gravel filter is just awful. Like, just don't get it, but pretty much how it works is it sucks in water underneath the gravel and it filters through the gravel. And then it just shoots up through the side and gives the output right there. And the thing with these is it doesn't actually remove any of like the floating debris or anything. It just makes it sit in the gravel where it produces tons of ammonia. So I wouldn't recommend these. Next is a sump. A sump is a big tank that goes underneath your tank. And it's like essentially a huge filter. So your water gets pumped out of your tank, it goes into the sump where it goes through all sorts of different media in the second tank, and then it gets pumped back into here. For huge aquariums, a sump is awesome. Like the King of DIY uses them for his big aquariums. But for smaller tanks, I wouldn't recommend. And the final type of filtration I'm going to talk about, there are others, but these are just the ones I'm covering. The final type of filtration I'm talking about is the canister filter. Now, the canister filter is pretty much a bigger HOB filter. What it is there's an intake to the filter, and it goes through a tube, and it goes into this canister. And through this canister, there's like multiple trays, and it goes through all these trays of different types of filtration media. And that's what I have on this tank. I have a filter rated for, I think it's 125 gallons on here with a 50-gallon tank. I have that because I have a turtle who makes a huge mess, so I want double filtration. Some other fish that double filtration is good for are goldfish. But just always research what kind of fish you're getting before you choose the filter. Okay, now I'm going to talk about what type of filter I recommend. For pretty much any tank under 50 gallons, just get a nice HOB filter. My personal favorite HOB filter is the Aqua Clear. The Aqua Clear is a super great filter with different filtration media in it, and I really like it. Anything over 50 gallons, I would probably just say canister filters. They're super good. They can go for a lot. And if you want, you can actually make huge canister filters out of like 5-gallon buckets. The King of DIY has a few videos on how to do that. So those can be for huge tanks. If you have like under 8 gallons, then usually an HOB filter destructs the water too much. So I would recommend getting a little corner sponge filter. Some beta tanks have little tiny internal filters that they go in, but those really, you shouldn't be getting a beta tank that's that small that it needs that. Just get one that's slightly bigger, like 5 gallons, and put a sponge filter in there. Okay, I hope this video helped you. And just always do your research on the different types of fish you're getting before you choose anything about your tank, because all fish need different things. And I hope this video helped. Thank you for liking, watching, subscribing. Bye!